know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Rights and Wrongs and Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. Thank you, one and all, for tuning in to another one of these as we get ready to go into the world of women's wrestling and, of course, you know, likely what you've tuned in for to begin with, the review of this week's WOW, or at least this week for me. As you're listening to this, is probably, you know, a week behind. So, you know, just bear with my chronological ongoings here as I record this. We have come out of WOW and their long-awaited toppling of their evil champion to, I guess, turn around and have the big babyface succeed and win and go over and be prepared to take on all challengers, except she got cut down and cut short on her first championship run. And where does WOW go from now? Where do they go? Where do they go from here? That and other questions and other topics pertaining to and around that particular program will be brought up as we move on. However, before we do that, you know, we're going to take a quick detour into some outside of WOW wrestling news. So let us prepare ourselves for the news, views, and updates. And what was going on out there in the world of professional wrestling? Well, as of me doing this, you should already know that WWE has new tag team champions, and Alexa Bliss, and Charlotte Flair. They're doing the whole frenemies thing, or odd couple wrestling. We've seen this happen a couple of times, but they're putting their little twist on it, so you know that's cool. It probably helps Charlotte Flair out too, so she's not just, you know, completely unliked amongst the viewing public. But so far, I have enjoyed the two of them. It would be nice to see where this goes. You know, in years gone by, it would have been, well, we're doing this, to putting them together so we can split them apart and feud them later. Now, whether that will be the case here or not is, you know, of course, remains to be seen. I would prefer that it doesn't. I want to see if they can do something with this, and maybe you have a team that can help make their women's tag team championships bigger. I mean, by default, they're the biggest tag team championships in women's wrestling right now. I'm sorry. I know there's probably some WOW fan out there listening, and that's not true, but no, I'm sorry. It is true. I hate to say it. I hate to break it to you. But the WOW Tag Team Championships are not the biggest tag team championships in women's wrestling. I know. It's heartbreaking. But it just isn't true. But I would like to see Bliss and Flair possibly bring that up. We know Stratton has retained her championship against Jade Cargill, which it seemed like it sparked up a couple of debates on whether she was done or not done in terms of contract, well, done in terms of the push that she was receiving, that the WWE may not have the faith in her that they did before, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I don't have any sort of inside track to that. I just brought it up in order to say this. That is what happens when somebody who was largely in a promotion that she was protected and didn't have to learn how to get better. I mean, she's fine, but is she as polished as she could be? No. She was fast-tracked into a position that she was basically at the top of when she got on TV, and she had no reason to get better. You remove her from that, and then she goes to WWE, and they go through their training and growing pains and what have you. And I'm not going to act like she didn't have some, a reasonable match or a good match here and there. But whatever it is that their criteria might possibly be, she may not be hitting it. It is the example of exposure. First off, she probably shouldn't have been on the main roster to begin with. And that's not a knock on her. But she probably shouldn't have been there. I know they did it because she was presented as a big star, and it probably would have felt like we're wasting her star power to put her down there. If we put her on TV right now, there is going to be some buzz because she was treated relatively big on the opposition, AEW. And that part of the argument I can completely understand. But getting back to the point, she probably wasn't ready for it. She probably was not ready for that. Probably got in a position where, how do you say no to this? I'm sure she probably feels that she is was in a good place as far as her performance level and how she was moved along, and all of those things. But perhaps she is not in reality. I don't expect her to turn around and have a Charlotte Flair quality match. People can say what they will about Charlotte, but she usually delivers the goods. I don't expect Jade Cargill to do that. Maybe she can turn it around. Maybe she can't. But that is one of the issues of being pushed into a position that you are not ready for. And as a side note, for some WoW fans out there, the ones who largely, and I don't know why they hone in on like WoW originals when they say this, but the ones that would get online and they would, I'd like to see so-and-so go to WWE. Or I'd like to see so-and-so go to AEW. Now, are there people on that roster that could do that? Yes. Yes, there are. But the ones that are nominally brought up, I would disagree with. And those are usually the ones that have no wrestling experience at all before WoW and likely will not have any wrestling experience afterwards. When those names get brought up and tossed around, let's use the Beast for example, because she's not in the WoW right now. Probably could care less about wrestling at this point. When her name was brought up, I read myself a couple of times, like, I'd like to see her go to WWE. Like, for what? If she goes there, she's going to be exposed. She's going to be exposed for not being as good as she was made out to be. Now, the WWE audience probably wouldn't care because most of them would know she is anyway. Nikita Lyons was proof of that. There were a lot of people that when she came in there had no clue where Nikita Lyons came from. WoW's television was not that strong that it penetrated into that market. And by that market, I mean the WWE fan base. And how long has she been in NXT now? And then they moved her down to Evolve. Has she gotten better? Probably. Is she where they need her to be? Probably not. And the only selling point that she's produced in the times that we've seen her is essentially her ass. So when I think about, Jade Cargill being the example in this situation, and then, you had the fans of the Wild fan base says that the Beast or, G.I. Jane or, whoever. I was trying not to think of people that was actively on the roster. But anyhow, when they point out, well, they should go to WWE and they're more or less WoW originals with nothing preceding it and likely nothing afterwards, I was like, no. Because they were good there does not make them good in that environment. The WWE is going to be expecting the cream of the crop. And regardless of what their presentation was in WoW, that is probably not it. Natty Neidhart returned to and defeated former TNA Knockouts World Champion Masha Slamovich at Bloodsport. Well, I guess the most recent Bloodsport. She won by ref stoppage, which I did get to see a good chunk of that. So it appears that Neidhart is kind of going back and forth because she's been involved, and maybe this is the best way the WWE sees to utilize her, perhaps. Not to get rid of her entirely, but okay, you're good working with some of the younger talent. It worked when we sent you down to NXT. And maybe it can, happen again when we send you to Evolve. And at the same time, we'll open you up. You can go on out. You can go to these other promotions and you can be Natty Neidhart and take whatever independent shots you want to take. Perhaps that's, part of the overall plan for her right now. And if that's the case, great. I still say NWA missed a big opportunity. If it was simply a case of it was their choice. Because if Natty said, hey, look, I would love the championship, but I can't, for whatever reasons, I'm contractually obligated, I can't, promise the WWE I wouldn't win, just something. If that were the case, then I get it. There was no reason to try to force a belt onto her that she can't take. But if it was anything outside of that, I think they missed a big opportunity. A big opportunity. Because she's clearly still running around on independence, although be it high name independence, whether people like that thing or not. I mean, she's probably not going to show up at Small Town Independent Wrestling USA or, something like that. But the ones that have some name quality behind it, the fact that she is able to be there, that is a big deal. And this may be what she needs to add to her legacy. We just saw her in Reality of Wrestling. She took on Promise Braxton. The most recent video I've seen of her following Bloodsport is her out in AAA. The low-key legend showed up there. Surprisingly enough, if we want to cross this to any sort of wild news or whatnot, she was in the ring with the current reigning defending WoW champion Tormenta. Although she doesn't look like the Tormenta that we saw from WoW. Yes, it was a tag team match, but they still shared a ring. The currently, as far as TV time frame is concerned, the current injured Tormenta, who is the champion, just wrestled against Natty Neidhart a couple of days ago with a different look, without the mask, and in a tag team match, but it was still a match against Neidhart all the same. So one point being, I don't know how well that helps the sale of Tormenta's injury for those of us who know there's a wrestling world that exists beyond WoW. And then the other side of it being back to Natty Neidhart. Perhaps this is good for her. I wonder where she will pop up next. I don't think that she would go to, again, not necessarily a bottom of the barrel independent, but say like a a nice formative independent wrestling promotion in your town. But it doesn't have TV and it doesn't have any major names and stuff like that. Like, it would seem like a place such as that would be good for her to show up at, but I don't know if she can or wants to. Or maybe they can't afford her. She might have been priced out of it, because I'm just thinking about the places that she has been. Game Changer, which, coincides with this blood sport thing that she's been doing. The NWA, Reality of Wrestling, AAA. Those, in my estimation, seem to be places that basically can afford to bring her in for at least a shot. I don't know if she would be able to be brought in for, say, and I'm just going to use the wrestling places here that I know, like Platinum Championship Wrestling or Southern Honor. I mean, maybe, but that would be hard. And she may not want to go into a place that WWE doesn't recognize. So there's always that. All in all, I'm glad that she's still doing this. It has been fun to see her exist in another line other than being Natalya. Not that I dislike Natalya, I do, but we know what we're getting out of her at this point. They've already established it, and they don't seem like that's something that they're trying to change. I mean, just going back to the Evolution 2 Premium Live event, which I enjoyed. For anybody that didn't catch the review that I did, I fully enjoyed that whole thing. But how she presented herself at that event for the brief time that we saw her versus how she's been presented on the independents has been drastically different. She has put herself out there as a rough veteran. No frills. It's not a lot of color or design in her outfit. It's basic black with Natty written on it and low-key legend on the back. The closest I've seen to any additional color is when she went to Mexico for AAA and she had the Mexican flag underneath the words Natty Neidhart. Well, I think it was, low-key legend. But you get the point. She's been drastically different there opposed to when I saw her in the Battle Royal and she was being convinced into doing the worm. Where she's back to being Natalya, kind of serious, but mostly willing to be funny, that. So maybe it's the best of both worlds. This could be just an all win for her. Get to go around, get to still do her thing, be looked at as a top talent, depending on where she's going. Still participate in WWE, still help train, because she always posting videos of her training people. It may not be about a championship. I'm just talking in her life in general. Maybe this is that winning moment in life. She seems to be getting it all. I'm really trying to think, is there anybody else that has a deal like that? Where they would just, hey, I'm in WWE, but I'm just able to travel and show up in other places and stuff. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, she seems like she is really sitting on the gold mine. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be she needs to be the WWE champion. She might just be winning in life. Moving on, I had recently found out that Kiera Hogan, one of my old favorites, Kiera Hogan, she is on Jocelyn's Cabaret. Wow. Oddly enough, the young lady at my job, same one that informed me that Miss Newhire, for some of those returning ears out there, the same one that told me that, hey, the Beast is on Beast Games, just told me that. It's like, hey, this person you was telling me about, what's her name? Kiera Hogan. Kiera, yeah, I think she's on this thing called Jocelyn's Cabaret. Like, what? And lo and behold, there she is. I haven't seen Kiera Hogan in a long time, either on TV and in person way longer than that. I did look at some of the clip where she introduces us. I guess they're like on a party van or something like that. I did look at that clip where she lets them know that, well, I didn't come here through the same means that, a lot of you girls did through the clubs and whatnot. I'm a professional wrestler, and then she kind of talks herself up in the same way that she had been. She basically cuts a promo on herself that she's the girl on fire and this, that, and the other. So we can see the wrestler portion of her coming out, and I'm pretty sure that will help her in that environment. But as I was getting at, I haven't seen her. I know that she went to Ring of Honor, but of course that at the time was behind a paywall. I think they put up episodes on YouTube now, but at the time it was behind a paywall, and I was refusing to look at it because I just wasn't interested in seeing Ring of Honor at this point. It's not the same product that I more or less grew up watching, if you want to call it that, even though I was an adult already. But I hadn't seen her, and then I turned around and was like, wow, she's going to this reality show. It's another big jump. I'm sure she's not going to just walk away from wrestling altogether, despite what she did say on the show. I think she did say something to the effect that she always knew wrestling would be like a stepping stone for her for bigger things. But I don't take that as her saying I'm done with wrestling. She may come back. In fact, being there might leverage her value up. I don't know. I don't know how big Jocelyn's Cabaret is beyond the fact that it was on the Zeus network, and I have not, and nor do I perceive myself as getting ready to subscribe to Zeus. But if it's a big enough deal and it does get her extra attention and it does bolster up her social media or the need for people to want to see her and to, see appearances and this, that, and the other, it could work in her favor on either platform. Much like I just spoke about with Neidhart, it could be, a good thing all around for her. I do not recall seeing any posts of her being released from AEW. And we've already seen that their boss is willing to let you do other things and still remain on payroll. It wouldn't surprise me. Now, I'm not going to say that this is true. So let me be clear. I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not reporting this as fact. But it would not surprise me if she wanted to go out for this show, ask for a hiatus of some sort, of some description, and he just left her like, sure, and was willing to pay her to let her go do it. It wouldn't surprise me if that were the case. But is it? Who knows? All in all, if you're wanting to see this young lady, the one that we once knew as the girl on fire, Kiera Hogan, or in WoW for whatever reason when they would just want to dwindle her name down to Fire. Yeah. If you want to see her, she is available to be seen in a far different setting. So I will just put that out there, that on the app that provides you the Zeus network, you can watch Jocelyn's Cabaret. I have not seen it, and beyond anything other than those clips, so I cannot give you anything further than that as far as this is what happens, this is how it goes, this is worth the watch. I don't know. That would have been something that Miss Newhire could have told you all about, because she loves her reality TV / her ratchet television. That is how she described it to me. So I'll take her at her word, and I will just leave it at that. Lastly, before we go into the review, I want to mention about WoW as they went to San Diego Comic-Con, and of course they did their interview rounds, and they talked to Variety and I think IGN and probably a couple other things. I am sure that I brought this up to some description. I just feel the urge that I almost have to ask myself to kind of find the logic in it. I don't know what it is that they intend to get from that. I honestly don't. And I sat and thought about it as I'm doing right now, honestly, and it just doesn't ring any specific thing that makes sense to me. Variety is a wonderful platform, and largely a platform for television shows of a traditional sense, sitcom, procedural dramas, whatever you want to, throw in there, and movies. It is more or less the trades for that, and the information and news platform for that. Outside of maybe a WWE, they really don't touch wrestling. And last year when we went through this, it's not that they didn't have the interviews, but you had to go through so much to find it. Like, it existed, but you had to know where to go and what you were looking for. In order to, it's like we're doing this because we have it and we have to do something with it, rather than let's get this on here because it's going to make people see it and make people come to our page and make people want to watch and read it. It feels just like it's more out of obligation rather than this is news and we need to do something with this. The closest thing that I have out of personal experience to make me relate or feel the way that I feel about what Variety might be doing is the one match that I shot that I was like, this is not a good match. And I did not want to put it on my YouTube channel when I was doing matches on a regular basis. And it was with somebody that I covered on a regular basis at the time. If you go in there, you can see several matches by a woman named Pandora. In this particular instance, whoever she was supposed to have wrestled for the championship was returned bout. I think it was Mickey Knuckles. I'm not completely sure off the top of my head, but I believe it was her. But the defending champion didn't show up. That's the important part. And they didn't have a lot of fill-in. So what they wound up doing was they got somebody who was really green, hadn't been introduced to that audience, and didn't really have the experience to maintain the match with her, come in because the options were low. So they had the match, and then they had to smoke and mirror it. Let's make it a lumberjack match. Lumberjack match for what? Why? I mean, I knew why they did it, but it's like this woman just met her. There's no reason for no lumberjack match. But again, smoke and mirrors. All in all, the point being is that it wasn't a spectacular or even good match by any means. It was passable, would be nice. And because it was that, just passable, I just did not feel, first it didn't have any angle, didn't have any story, it wasn't particularly good. I don't even think, if I remember correctly, she didn't use her normal finish. I can't even remember the finish that she used, because I don't think that she knew how to take a cutter or a DDT. So she had to give her something that would just place her flat, something like that. But the comparison here is that I just could not bring myself to put that on that channel. So what I did to be able to say that I did it was I edited, I treated it like I would as in terms of creating the video, but I uploaded it to Facebook instead. And much like I say about the variety, it's there, but you would also have to know that it's there, and you'd have to know what you're looking for in order to find it. And that's what I feel that Variety largely does with WoW. You got to know that it's there, and you got to know, what you're looking for in order to find it. And it just feels like putting even them talking to them doesn't aim for a wrestling audience. It's like we're trying to get an audience that doesn't really want wrestling but may be curious, opposed to multiple wrestling platforms that exist out in the world. Forget me. Wrestling podcasters out there. Wrestling websites that exist out there. Wrestling websites that specify in women's wrestling. I'm sure there are some that are out there that cover it, as I do. But they don't have a plethora of them doing it because it doesn't seem like they attempt to try to associate with, talk to, communicate with. Doesn't seem like any of that exists. Like we don't want to, it's almost the feeling of we don't want to be associated with wrestling, even though we are wrestling. We want to get this other audience over here that doesn't really watch that nonsense. But why? Diva Dirt is the king of us. Or queen. The queen. So, however you want to put it. But those of us that cover women's wrestling of any description, they're probably top of that list. If not top 3, let's just say that. They don't bother to report anything about WoW. Cage Match does matches. So it doesn't really offer anything much beyond that. But it seems like an odd strategy other than to just do this to stroke your ego. We were in Variety instead of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I mean, I know it sounds better. And I also know that if I'm David McClain and I'm trying to sell it to Jeannie Buss, that sounds better. Having Jeannie Buss show up, which is probably how they get into most of those things that interviewed in the first place, sounds better. I'm sure Jeannie Buss would probably care less about Cultaholic or Pro Wrestling Illustrated or any wrestling site, podcast, video, or platform other than a WWE product. I'm pretty sure she could care less. So I understand. I can say a lot of things about Dave McClain, but you've not heard me say that he was stupid. Stupid idea, I might have said. But I've not questioned his personal intelligence. I'm sure that he has sold her everything that she needed to hear. This is for women's empowerment. The wrestling is just a packaging for that. And yeah, this is a TV show. We should be in Variety talking about it like the rest of the TV shows. So again, I understand. I understand completely. It just still feels weird because that audience is almost non-existent. That they're chasing. They're the donkey that has the carrot in front of him that he'll never reach. That's like you're chasing this carrot. This audience that doesn't watch wrestling, so they'll watch your wrestling. And there's always going to be some people that's on the periphery of that. But this audience of people that dig into Variety to get their wrestling news, I'm sorry to say, I just don't think that is a very large audience. And then we go to the other side of the fence. Like I just said, most wrestling platforms don't talk about them or cover them. And they don't seem to go out of their way to try. And the only other times that I've seen a podcast that had some of their own, it seemed like it had to be WoW/David McClain approved. And that already limits the field. I mean, I saw Santana Garrett doing a couple of podcasts, but all of those podcasts came with David McClain. How much was she going to say? how much was that person that was on the other end of it going to ask them? Because I'm sure if they got approved by him coming on there, they had to kiss his butt. Wow's great. Wow's fantastic. You guys don't do anything wrong. Hooray. But just the concept of that, I really don't think that Jeannie Buss gave us a lot of thought about whether this audience exists or not, whether it's accomplishing the goal that she wanted, whether she should even be bothered with it. And I know in the grand scheme of it, is it going to hurt her wallet? No. In the grand scheme of things, this probably means nothing financially to her. But still, how much money are you willing to throw for this quest of doing what she's doing? Her vanity project. Be able to say that she's done something in the great crusades of womanhood. It's noble. Although I personally think she would probably be better served if that was what she wanted to do, like finance the women's basketball team out there, or a football team, or the league. So there's many different ways to do that. She could do it through professional wrestling. I just don't think that she knows how to do it through professional wrestling. Because her own statements largely overlook the fact that there are professional wrestlers out there that are looking to do this and would love the opportunity to do it. But instead of doing that, she would rather like, well, let's just open this up for anybody that hasn't done well in the things that they want to do. They need an opportunity past the people who actually want to do it. In any case, my personal statement to the open air that Wow may fall on Wow's ears is, and I know it will never change. I understand it. It's never going to change. But just understand, variety as a platform, and for that matter, the San Diego Comic-Con. Yes, there are people who enjoy and watch wrestling, and there are people that enjoy and watch WoW that will be at both of these things. I fully admit that. What I am saying is that the bulk of that audience doesn't come there for that. The bulk of that audience, San Diego Comic-Con is very much like Dragon Con here. People travel for miles around for the stars of that thing, which are either the actors and movie stars that are coming in from their favorite sci-fi and fantasy issues, TV shows, and what have you, or the writers and artists themselves. Those that for that weekend when they're there, they're rock stars. Not a lot of people outside of like the world famous pro wrestlers get that kind of attention. You'll get attention just because they're there, but not a lot of them go tripping over themselves for people that exist outside the WWE sphere. It's just sorry, they don't. You know, you'll always have somebody. There's always, somebody that's, hey, it's, so-and-so from WoW. There's always going to be that. But are they going to have the line wrapped around the corner that say Sting does? You know what I'm saying? It's not the audience for it. And if WoW at any point wants to spread its reach to more eyes, and that's all it should matter, to more eyes. Forget whether they're reading Vanity or Variety or not. Address some of the wrestling platforms that do this all the time, that would be willing to put that out there. You'd probably get more out of it. Believe it or not, some of those platforms actually have strong followings. Now, whether they would report on WoW or not, different issue. You'd have to talk to them. But it might be worth it. That's all I'm saying. We can get out of the news, views, and updates now. I finished my opening rants. We can have this little interlude before we go off into the review. So, at this point, we're going to cut this portion of the show, roll into whatever talking to talk person I found this particular week. I have been enjoying digging through and trying to find some people that have some comparable personality / verbiage in their promos. It's nice to offer up my small little platform to help get the name out there in the world. But after that, and after the musical interlude, then we will come back and then we'll go off into the review of this particular episode of WoW. Stay tuned.
Abadon, just a quick word after the win.
Do I need to say much? I told you. I'm coming for every title on the scene. Everybody is on notice. Reign of Terror has begun. Get out of my sight.
And we are back. And this episode of WoW that is up for review is episode 347, season 3, episode 47, title All American Return. The air date August the 2nd, and the chronological number 151. Show begins with the recap of Tormenta winning the WoW Championship. They show basically Tormenta being injured by Reina Del Rey. This includes the footage of her, some fan reaction, or crowd reaction, I should say, and her being tended to and taken away. So we see that the cameras continue to roll and got this footage to show the aftermath of what took place after the main event. So we see her getting taken away by the medics. I will say this, the fan reaction got to a point where it looked legit, but it didn't look legitimate until like the third version of it. For whatever reason, before then, it felt like they were just still in acting mode until, and it might be true, until they realize, oh, whoa, wait a minute, this is real. And then all of, some of those looks look legitimate and earnest and genuine then, but like the first couple that they had seemed like they just were still in the middle of acting. Maybe not the choices I would have made, but hey, what are you gonna do? The next segment, top tier entered the arena. And you know how this has got to go. Top tier enters the arena. That means that Coach Campanelli is going to get on the mic. And she does. She gets on the mic and she cuts a promo about the Trios division where she basically had repeated everything that I said on this podcast for months. Now, I'm not foolish enough to believe that she listened to this podcast and decided, hey, I'm going to cut a promo that basically says everything that he said. That would be impossible. So we know that that's not the case. However, it's everything that I've been saying for months. She essentially admitted that there is no division, first off. And that it's just a random parade of hodgepodge people being thrown together to accommodate that team. Have I not said that? Multiple times. And after she does that, and I know this was not the goal of the promo for her to run down her opponents in the traditional sense. I know that wasn't the goal. But in essence, she kind of did. And the reason, was it a good heel promo? Sure. She can't, I'm assuming that they give her the material, so she can deliver the material, whether she produces it or not. She might not be able to do a promo on her own. I don't know. And by that, I mean if she was somebody other than Coach Campanelli. She seems like she's been trained to be Coach Campanelli, and she can do that very well. If that makes sense. Just imagine if she got hired by another wrestling promotion and she couldn't be Coach Campanelli. Would she be able to be as efficient? That's essentially what I'm saying. Or as good. But she can and has and does deliver the material. And I'm sure that this particular portion of her promo was not there to point out any truths necessarily about the persons that were facing, but that's what it did. It pointed out the truth. Even if it was the heel's truth, it was still the truth. In so many words, Gabriella Cruz, we don't know what she's bringing to the table. True. She's been on that show for like 3 weeks preceding this and hadn't won a single match. Why is she in that? And, that's nothing on her. That's not a knock against her talent. But how she's been presented on this show, why would she be involved in this thing when going against, allegedly, the best wrestling group in all of whatever the fuck? Why would you pick her? That didn't make sense to me to begin with. that Chantilly, Chella, and Kalaki is like, hey, you who hasn't won a single match, help us go into this match against this team that's been dominating us from top to bottom for months. That didn't make sense by any stretch of the imagination. Next, Kalaki can't get enough of us. True. Kalaki has been involved in multiple iterations of teams that have tried to go up against top tier, and all of which have basically failed. All of them. And yet she keeps coming back for another beating and another loss. Chantilly, Chella. This is when Candy Crush grabs the microphone. Now, I'm not in the chronological order, by the way, but that's when Candy Crush grabs the microphone like, beat her. True. Chella has been involved in that hodgepodge rotating door at points. And she's been beaten by him also. They didn't say anything here that was untrue. And not just untrue, it wasn't even open for debate. It's not like she said something that would lean into, well, I don't know, like maybe she could have did this, or lied about something that we had seen happen. Like, oh, she never knocked me out. Now, something. Everything she said here was true. So I didn't know on the one hand, the delivery was fine. On the other hand, the content was like, well, you pretty much told me who's winning this main event. But because top tier in WoW's universe delivers the goods, whether they're heel or not, they deliver the goods. They say we're going to go out there and win, and they mostly win. Any storyline that's happened that has even remotely looked like it was going to take them in a different direction, gone, cut off, forgotten about. What happened to that little storyline where they was on this 2-week losing streak? And I don't even know if they intended to do that as a storyline. They may have just, well, we'll have you guys lose twice so people don't say y'all win all the time. That could have been it. But still, like they had two matches, they lost, and then all of a sudden Glory Glitter won, and then it was not a thing anymore. It just went away. It meant nothing. Top tier delivers the goods. And that promo pretty much solidified that they deliver the goods. Not the fans, not the viewers, not the commentators. Nobody out there can argue those points. Which is ridiculous. So anyhow, that was that. And we know that this is basically there to set them up for the main event later on. Next segment. First match of the show, the Brat Pack and versus the Island Girls. Where is Gambino here? Why is it that the Brat Pack is part of the alliance, but the Brat Pack work alone? Why? What was the point in them joining? I mean, if we're looking at this from just the point of view of the heels, we are going to join your faction. What was the point of them joining? They didn't even get the benefit of having the bodyguard or the manager. They are right where they always were, wrestling by themselves. So what was the point of this? And I like the Brat Pack. But why? And I know that ain't their fault, but why? It's like the more I think about certain little things that just is so off track. And it doesn't gel with any logic. Like, I always question why they keep coming out by themselves. But the more I think about it, the less it makes sense to me that they would come out by themselves or that they would join the alliance at all. There's the only thing that they're doing if they came on TV and they said that they were getting paid a huge sum of money, to be at ringside for Reina Del Rey whenever she has a match, then okay, fine. That would justify it to some degree, but you know what hadn't happened? That. No one's explained it. They just joined the alliance, and even though they're part of the alliance, they're not part of the alliance when they're in the tag team match. I don't know. Anyhow, they're going against the Island Girls, and Dave McClain tries to muster out information about Del Rey injuring Tormenta, and that the Brat Pack is managing Adriana Gambino, even though she ain't there, as she usually isn't. Rhythm does her opening rap. It's just part of the course now. You know, when she started doing that before, I was saying that it wasn't really helping anything or leading to anything for them. I mean, entertaining maybe, but it's just part of the course now. It's not like it helps her with the crowd or gets over with the crowd or annoys the crowd. It's just, you know, it's none of those things. I'm pretty sure if her marching orders was, give me a rap at the beginning of this that's going to get you some heat, or, you know, get the crowd pissed off or whatever, I'm sure if those were her marching orders, she would have been able to do that. But I get the impression that those aren't the marching orders, and she's just there to just give a rap. But a rap with no direction in mind doesn't do anything. A song in general with no direction in mind doesn't do anything. It's just there, just for the sake of being there. So anyhow, this is presented as a rematch. Last we saw the Brat Pack defeat the Island Girls. But apparently were thinking about making this an ongoing thing between the two of them. Whether they will have a third match or not, I guess remains to be seen, being that this is the second. They probably will just blow this off. But I got what I expected out of this, because despite all presentation of the Brat Pack, I still maintain that they are a wonderful tag team. I don't know if it's just they have a fair chemistry with each other. Maybe they just both inherently know what to do. Maybe it's because they don't seem to try to overextend themselves. I don't recall them doing a plethora of tandem moves and things like that, or high-flying things that would get them off track. They seem pretty grounded and more or less on the same page whenever I've watched them. But the presentation of the Brat Pack, despite everything I just said, has not been high. They, more often than not, I would say, come out on the losing end of the stick, and this is one of those times. Charmorro and Kalaki were fine. There are times they do things in the match that I question, because I don't understand the reasonings behind it. Probably specifically the little hand clap thing that leads to nothing. It's like they had a spot in the match. They send Gianni in. They catch her with double elbows. She goes down, and then they just kind of like patty cake over her body and then go for a pin. I was like, I don't know what that's supposed to be entertaining or doing anything for anyone in particular. Maybe if it finished off with some elbows, possibly. But it just feels like that was kind of a waste. They just did that and then nothing. McClain on the microphone during commentary is trying to put the Brat Pack over. But unfortunately, despite what he's saying, their record just doesn't back that up. It doesn't. The heat of this match has gotten mostly on Tiki. This is after she shoots Gianni into the turnbuckle, and then she goes in for one, and then she misses the second that she decides to wave to BK Rhythm for some reason. Fortunately, I don't know if she was attempting to get over to the post to post herself when she tried and missed the shoulder block. But even if she didn't, BK Rhythm to the rescue. She came over there and just kind of draped her throat across the second rope. Then this is where the heels actually had the pin on the babyface. And the ref was not available or paying attention enough to do anything about it. So there is the point in the match that we could argue that the Brat Pack could have won, but because the ref wasn't paying attention, they failed. So there, and I sincerely doubt that they will ever bring that up. But it was an opening that they did have in the match. And if they were going to come back to it, that would be the opening that they could use. Just a little bit, not food for thought, because like I said, this is already shot and done. But it would be one of those few times that they actually did or could explain it. It's a shame that I don't think they will explain it, but they could if they really was going to try. So anyhow, like I said, they put the heat on Tiki until we get the old double noggin spot. This is when all four competitors are in the ring and they decide to go to an old school thing. I genuinely am surprised that either one of them still did or wanted to do this. Because this is an old wrestling trope. They can't headbutt anybody from the audience. If you headbutt them, then you're going to go down because their heads are super thick. That was always the explanation. Thicker skulls. I'm really, really surprised that this was included. Now, it's not the first time that they've done it, because Tiki's done it a couple of times. They ran her head into something and she just brushed it off. It's never amounted to anything, but it has happened in the course of her match. So we get this. The Island Girls are rammed head first against each other. Only they're not, but they pretend that they are. And then they just like, oh, like that was supposed to hurt. Ha ha ha. And of course, our heels have turned their backs to this, so they did not see the reaction immediately. Then it becomes their turn. They get their heads knocked together and it gets the desired effect. This sets Gianni up for, I forget Tiki's area code. We'll just call it for what it is, 619. And then Rhythm, who's the legal competitor for the Brat Pack, gets hit with this snapmare driver. And then she's put into this surfboard thing for the tap. And, well, I shouldn't say the tap. That wasn't a tap maneuver. She kind of surfboarded and curb stomped her. So she curb stomps her face first to the mat, and 1, 2, 3. But that finish takes a long time to get to. I can see why they lose in most cases. I would always have thought that going after the pin after the snapmare driver would have been enough. But then she has to do the surfing spot, and she's got, did the little curb stomp thing. It just seemed like a long way around to get to that pin. But anyhow, that was the first match, and the Island Girls go over. No surprise there. Next segment, promo for Xena Phoenix and Fury. And they B-roll Phoenix walking into the building in her normal clothes. I guess they wanted to show a different side of her. This was different for the show and good. I don't know if it's going to get much more of that. If it doesn't, if we don't see any more, it will make it continue to feel out of place, because as nice as it was, it felt out of place. I mean, I can't justifiably sit here and say that, well, that fit the show. It didn't, because they never done it. Now you've almost never, they could get right out of their car. They'd usually be in tights or something. Other than the Fab Four being in the house or something like that. And even then, they were seem like relatively close to what they would wear anyway. Same color scheme, et cetera, et cetera. So it was nice, but it did stick out just because it's not something that Wild typically does. Segment after that is the match itself. This is Fury versus Xena Phoenix. And Zayn makes the point that she only has one loss, which was, I guess, was nice, although I still maintain that she shouldn't have lost at all. I have had an issue with the whole thing, because I know they look like they're trying to turn around and present her like a top shooter, untapped talent, somebody who's going to be not on a destructive run, but basically on a winning streak of sorts, and make her out to be a big deal. Now, it's not that they can't make her a big deal from this point. I'm just speaking for me, I just would have preferred that if they were going to go this route with her and they knew they were going to go this route, they probably should have just had her be undefeated. She shouldn't have lost. I mean, because I don't even remember who she lost to off the top of my head, which only makes me feel like it didn't do anything for the person that got beat in the first place. Or won, I should say. It didn't help them, because it's not like whoever that person was is in some sort of prime position, because almost nobody is. But it could have been better for Phoenix. Not saying it's bad, but it could have been better for her had she been or remained undefeated. Phoenix has a star look. Cannot argue that. And treated right, she could be sold somewhat as a shooter. She could be sold off the athleticism. And I mean that to, mainstream public now. Again, I'm not thinking that they're going to do this. That would be a stretch, but I don't think that they're gonna do it. I'm just saying I fully believe that they could have if they desired to. The match was good in the sense of the classic exchange of holds and counter move. I guess Fury is somewhat the guardian of the gates now. I think I said that before. It seems like everybody that comes through at this point has to come across her at some point in time. Not a bad position, and I believe I mentioned that the first time. But if that is indeed what she's going to do, I guess I don't want her to identify it, but it'd be nice if we were clued into that. Although, given the events that took place later on, that might not be it either. She had been a rudder in the water. She just was anywhere the waves took her. And then she started doing this, and I started to believe, okay, maybe they did give her a slot. But then, like I said, at the end of this show, that seemed to change. But, of course, we'll get to that. Zayn was killing me with how many times he was saying David's name. I feel like I'm repeating myself too, but it just, it was so much. So much. McLean, I don't know if he just doesn't pay attention when his commentator buddy is talking, or does he not keep the records or the papers in front of him, whatnot. Well, he didn't get Phoenix's win-loss record right as this match was going on. And that's despite the fact that Zayn specifically mentioned that at the beginning of this thing. I'm like, did he catch himself or was he corrected? Yes, but this is not the only time that's happened where he'll just say something that's like, this is your show. I'm really surprised that you don't know your own stuff. But it is a good thing that Zayn is there to, hold him up in terms of that. I just really hate that the thing that I said about commentators with David McClain has started to bear fruit, and that they don't stay good long because he turned, they have to begin to accommodate him. At some point in time, they will carry the voice of David McClain, and it has already happened. But anyhow, getting away from that, the match I thought was fine, especially given Phoenix's level of experience. I know Harlow has more experience than she does. I saw around her opening years. So, relative to the experience that she has displayed, I think she's done fine. Now, there also is the, not the concept, but the fact that some of these girls do practice days in advance. Now, I don't know if that goes across the board. I would imagine that it does. And given that, it would also have to add in the fact that good for experience, maybe, yes, but there's also the idea of she has a good memory and she can execute. So, we have to take that into account when we talk about how good or bad some of the wild trainees are. But anyhow, that aside, the match is fine. It's enjoyable. I thought they both did a good job here. And we got the right outcome. I mean, I love Fury, but if they are going to try to do something with Xena Phoenix, and they've spoken highly of her on commentary, I can only assume that they would at least halfway want to position her as a top girl. Well, that's only going to happen if she gets some wins, because she's not going to win them over on the microphone, at least not right now. She hasn't found that. Maybe during the time that they weren't taping, she started to practice and she'll come back stronger than ever. Who knows? But as of right now, given what we are seeing, she ain't ready for that, to win people over or talk them to her side based on her microphone skills. So, what do you do with that? You got to win them over in the ring. And I think that she is capable of doing that, given time and effort. She has the look that they can sell for somebody, that they can sell for an athlete. So, those things will work in her favor, if Wild knew how to take advantage of it, which they probably won't. Sometimes it's just so sad. But anyhow, it was a tap out. Phoenix wins by the armbar submission. And then they begin setting up the next match. They being the commentators. But this may have been one of Phoenix's best showings so far. Fury was a good opponent for her. Helped her look good there. It wasn't all Phoenix, I'm sure. Fury was a good portion of that. My last question that I had for myself coming out of that was this a babyface versus babyface match? I am not totally sure of what Fury is these days. She's kind of back to the earlier saying, in the way the wind blows, in the way the currents take her. She just kind of goes one way or the next. It's just whatever. So I honestly was unsure whether this was, okay, this is the babyface match or babyface heel. Am I supposed to root against Fury? Am I supposed to cheer Fury? I don't know. Fortunately for them, the match, and I'm surprised I would be saying this, but the match was strong enough that it could stand up to it not having a definitive babyface or heel. I do think that worked in the favor of they can erase this thing. But again, just for the sake of Fury in general, forget the match, I honestly kind of lost track of whether she's a babyface or a heel. I assume babyface. And that's largely because of what happens later on. Next segment is the promo for Americana's return against Scout Parker. And then the segment after that is Scout Parker with her partner, Sprout Greens. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I had to give her a thumbs up that, okay, they didn't just blow off the team. And this is versus Americana. Returning Americana. And that was the first note I wrote, was at least Scout's partner came out with her. Because you know how that thing can go, just back and forth. And she just got there. I was like, if she turned around and leave already, I'm going to flip out. But they give a little bit of refresher history with the environmentalists stealing Jesse Jones' stick when they come out there, even though they don't have the stick with them. I question, are they even going to go anywhere with that? But anyhow, it's another case of the commentators have to do the talking for them. Scout and Sprout haven't said one word as to why they did it or what it's for, what they plan to get out of having a stick. Why would they even walk around with that thing? I was like, they could just throw it in a wood chipper to get some heat. I don't know. But still, they haven't said anything about it, so we're left to the devices of McLean and Zane to tell us about the stick, remind us that they're allegedly in a feud to begin with and is based around that stick. So, anyhow, they come into the ring. They being the environmentalists. They make a big deal, the commentators do, about Americana's return. I guess because she's a star within their universe. And this big deal return, it doesn't go long, but it's there. It's long enough to probably annoy you if you let it. What can I say? It's her return, but it didn't feel like any sort of major thing, if that makes any sense to you. Like a lot of times when we get the pro wrestling return, especially when you talk about it in a company like WWE, something like that, it's a big to-do. It's made a big deal of. Probably have a promo or interview at the end. Where have you been? What have you been doing? We'd love to hear from you, something, right? We didn't get any of that. Now, maybe she wouldn't have been any better a promo than I have ever remembered her as being. That is possible. But I want to say it's difficult to be excited about somebody's return, but you expect to get something from them to help make it continue to feel special. It didn't feel special. First off, I can't speak for the world, but it didn't feel special for me to begin with. And that's not her fault. I say that because WoW has, by and large, not, in my opinion, attempted to make any stars. I know they say they do, but it just never felt like they made the effort to try to make somebody a legitimate star. So the fact that she's not there when she wasn't really a presented star, didn't really speak to connect to the audience, wasn't really a strong promo to begin with, or a strong personality on screen to begin with, for that matter. Look, everybody can't do that. Everybody doesn't have that. Maybe she'll find it at some point. I don't know. But from the times that I remember seeing Americana on screen, talking or otherwise, that's not her strong suit. Athleticism, sure. But she also doesn't seem like she necessarily has pro wrestling fully down. Or given the fact that I've been told that the practice runs days. It might be points that she just gets in her mind that I'm supposed to do this thing. And if I, do it any other way, then I'll blow myself out of pace or something. I don't know. But the point being is that nothing that she has had within WoW would constitute her being looked at as a big deal. I don't say that to be mean, but there's nothing that's happened to constitute her being a big deal. She has been presented, if nothing else, on par with 50% of the roster. At the very least. Like, even the people that have name value outside of WoW don't get treated in the respect of that they're a star or that they're bigger than the next person there, because they have to make them look good. Even when they show up that day, they have to make them look good. So there's this disconnect. They can't be the best in the world when this person that just walked in the doors yesterday without any fanfare or background or anything else, probably never seen a wrestling ring before, that was in WoW to begin with, just took you to your limit within the WoW confines. Because taking you to your limit in WoW is like a 5-minute match. No one there has been presented as that. Some people have been presented more so, more TV time, or more vignettes, things like that. They've been presented more so than the others, but not necessarily in a bigger light platform or presentation as a wrestler than the others. So that's not just an Americana thing, but she is one of the people that suffers from it. So when she comes back, it makes it hard to be like, yeah, now I'm sure somebody out there is happy to see her back again. That's there. I can admit that. Somebody out there is happy to see her on their TV screens again or on their YouTube channel, whatever. I am positive that has occurred. But I would say the vast majority of people that would look at it just would maybe get a wave of, all right, and then it's back to normal. There's no special that exists there. It doesn't last. And that's unfortunate. It's not either of their faults. And when I say either, I should have said all. It's not anybody's fault that's in that locker room. That they have to do what they are told to do, and they got to be presented however they're presented. So anyhow, we've got Americana and Sprout Green. God damn it. Scout Parker. Why do they have these names so close together? Anyhow, Scout. Poor little Scout. I wish I could just pick you up and take you out of there. Get you someplace else where we can be something. Something other than just wild fodder. Anyhow, I was concerned about this match just to begin with, because regardless of whether I have faith in Scout or I think that she has some talent there that could be grown, or whether I believe in the athleticism, I will say that for Americana. Whether those things to be true or not, I still kind of felt like this could be a match with the blind leading the blind. And it wasn't bad, but, there were things that would happen. One of which is probably, what you've all noticed is the backflip to evade nothing. So we have a point in the match where Scout and Americana have their exchange, which leads them into the turnbuckle and the attempt of a head scissors to get back up out of a pin sends Americana to the corner. She comes out, Scout attempts to sweep the leg. And about a second or two later, then Americana jumps away from that. That felt like one of those things like, well, I know I'm supposed to do it, so, and the timing was just off. Unfortunately, those things will still happen. Again, the athleticism. You can't get on there for the backflip. Maybe timing of said backflip, but can't get on there for the backflip. And neither can we get on her for the backflip. That happened as she got Scout into the other side, where Scout had to pretty much take a step back in order to accommodate that coming out. This did feel like this match had its points of we got to memorize doing these things. And we know that, this is where it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to go. And they kind of functioned off of that. Like, it felt like cooperation in a couple of spots. The backflip into the corner. Scout's short hurricanrana. It wasn't completely in the camera, but you go back and you look at that when Americana's in the corner, she's getting choked out by sprout greens. And then she gets back up and then she has to scoot herself into the middle. I mean, so it's a couple of moments like that where it shows that this is kind of like obviously what I need to be doing when I need to be doing it. And I mean, I know they're doing their best. And it's going to take some time. I mean, what is she in? And we're talking actual ring time. What is she in now? Maybe a year? I know she's wrestled on TV more than that. But if they're not doing but maybe, 48, 49 shows and of that time, maybe she might wrestle half if she's there. Her collective in-ring experience, what is it, a year? That's what I'm figuring. Scout's probably just as low or less. I mean, she largely seems organic in her work. I like her. But I can't ignore the fact that she, probably has a lot of experience to gain. So that was, one of the down points of the match. I cannot say that the match is bad or anything like that. I'm not trying to, put that in anybody's mind that you can't watch it and it's just horrible. There are far worse matches out there floating on the independents, I assure you. But I am just saying that she being Americana, in this particular instance, I didn't see any growth. I didn't expect to because I don't think in reality it was the 7 months that we got on television. But I was just hoping that she would come back to smoother work or something like that. It just, she just isn't there yet. We're going to have to wait for the next go round of tapings to see if it changed. So moving along in the match, we get how important the return of Americana is because in the middle of that got slotted a fight in the backstage of Miami's Sweet Heat and Penelope Pink and Holly Swag. It just so happened that they fought into an open area that had 2 cameras set up so that we can catch that. That whole fight, I can appreciate that they still try to push the narrative of the feud between the two. But that didn't feel like some sort of organic fight. That's just production. I cannot say anything else about it. I mean, if you're told to go fighting down through the backstage, what else can you do? You got to go fight down through the backstage. But it just didn't come off like an organic thing. It's like, hey, I'm getting noticed that there's something going on in the back, and And we just have the cameras there, and they're not just one running camera, but two running cameras that just happen to catch these people fighting in this empty backstage area. So I don't know who told them about it to begin with. Like, nobody's standing there, but whatever. So anyhow, that just broke in just for the sake of breaking in. And then we go back to the match. You get back to the match, you see Scout do her standing moonsault. And I also want to say that there are points in here that I'm glad that they make it very clear the actions and efforts and said results of what they're attempting to do. One thing I can give Americana that I felt like got a little better, surprisingly, and maybe it was because it might have actually hurt, but the close-up of her in the Boston Crab, she actually looked like she was expressing some pain there. And I say that because there have been times where it didn't even come across, like it didn't register, regardless of what she was in. But I was concerned about the close-up, but she was fine with the close-up. Anyhow, back to where the end of the match was. Attempted moonsault by Parker. It hits, but it ain't enough. Then we get the moonsault on the other side of the fence with Americana later on. Of course, this is after the exchange or two. The reason I went moonsault to moonsault is because they had some vote on their Instagram, like, who did the better moonsault, Americana or Scout Parker? I said Scout, but anyhow, that's beside the point. Americana gets up to the top rope. Scout attempts to stop her. Good on Scout. And you can see that she looks like she was attempting a back suplex off of that. Steps up, goes to the motions. Americana is able to fight off. Sends Scout down. She gets her, well, at least the camera was off of Scout because I'm pretty sure she had to wiggle herself in position also. But she did do it. She got in position and she took that moonsault. She's pretty good about that. You know, she took it like a champ. I mean, no arms anywhere. I mean, her body brace, but good on her. So, and Americana nailed that thing too. I mean, she's got a spot on moonsault. I'm surprised she didn't hurt her own stomach doing that. Well, she probably did. But anyhow, that wasn't the biggest portion of the win. The biggest portion of the win didn't happen in the ring. Oh, no. The biggest portion is that we had to skip the little Levi as soon as that 3 count went into effect. You didn't see the 3 happen because there was something more important on the outside. Little Levi. And then they showed him again. The only thing that I was thankful for is that he didn't carry on saying his name over and over and over again like I know that he's capable of and that he's just done in the past. But it was a nice win. Good that she was able to come back to the win. I agreed with the outcome of this match. It's just a shame that whatever special that she might have had almost immediately went away. Whether that was intentional or it was accidental. But having her come back to little to no fanfare. And again, I understand this is all kind of short order in the actual taping, but we're talking about in their TV universe. Having to come back to little to no fanfare, not really having anything to say about the return. If there ever was a time for an interview, and I don't even endorse Dave McClain doing interviews, really, but if there ever was a time for an interview, this was probably it. Just something to, have her have a moment. It would probably be better if it was with somebody who could help her along with the interview, or give her something that she can answer to naturally, opposed to trying to think of lines. Maybe that would work. But either way, the point being is that it was nothing afterwards. The return really meant nothing. And even just jumping to Levi midway through, like we didn't even see the 3 count. We didn't see the win. We saw her We saw her win the after effect. We didn't see her 1, 2, 3. Now, is that big of a deal in the grand scheme of it? No. But it is, there's a little, subconscious thing that happens there. You do want to see the person who fought through this match succeed in every aspect. And that would include the pinfall. In fact, you wait for the pinfall. Don't cover it up with, it's her kid, but you don't cover it up with a shot of her kid. And she got cut into in the middle of her match. If this were a live show, you may excuse it. And I know they project this as if it were live, but it's not. If I were going to interrupt a match, it probably would have been Fury and Xena Phoenix. Nothing against them, but there's less going on in that than the return of one of your stars. And whether I agree with Americana being a star there or not, let's take that off of the table. If they told me that I need to treat her like a star in this segment and you're producing it, then that's what I got to do. I got to treat her like a star. I don't feel like having cut-ins or cover-ups to her pinfall and no presentation of her afterwards help that. If I am trying to get her presented to the public as a star, as a big deal, then those are the elements that I'm looking at and I'm rooting for. Don't cover up her pinfall. Have something to say because you're going to be interviewed after this match. You don't need to memorize lines. Have something to say about being back. And let's not put any cutaways during this return. That's it. That would have been what I would aim for. But that's just my opinion. Next segment, they promote their social media spots, their website, so on and so forth. Segment after that, they return promoting the Lumberjack match. McLean plays this up like, I got an idea, type thing. And my question when I finished seeing this was, what was the build to this stipulation? It's not that I oppose a Lumberjack match, but there is almost nothing that justifies them having a Lumberjack match or a Lumberjill match, if I guess we want to be more accurate. But there's nothing that really justifies that. I know they're trying to play it as, we have to contain this action and make sure no one leaves, so we're going to just surround the ring. Well, that's generally what the steel cage is for. That's one. Two, yes, a Lumberjack match has and can be used for that element, but it's largely there when somebody has always run. This isn't a case of that. In fact, the heels are running towards their enemy. This isn't a case of one person is leaving, or and dang it, we could have won if they hadn't escaped us again. The only real thing that I guess has built to this in their universe is that they fought all over the place. Well, they fought up the ramp and they thrown themselves to the table, and we couldn't keep them in the ring and whatever. But that's not somebody running away. You could have easily saw that with a, false count anywhere. It's just, if you don't want to fight in the ring, fine. But by and large, the stipulation is built as such that this person has escaped, tried to escape, or has something that they have done that You need more eyes on them than just one referee would provide. That has been kind of thrown there at minor points. But generally speaking, it's about the escape. The heel has gotten away from me far too long. I, the babyface, need something that's going to level the playing field. And the Lumberjack match is the way that we're going to resolve it. Which is the whole history behind the Lumberjack match, allegedly. It's like the fight pit things. You're not leaving until one of y'all is knocked out. And we're going to stand here and make sure that you don't. Or that you don't run. But I don't see that here. Neither team has illustrated that they didn't want a piece of the other team. So, got me. Segment after that, Sibley Scoles, promos for the main event. Nothing against her, but I just wrote down, why is this necessary? And what is she still looking at off camera? And it's not that I'm saying don't promote the main event, but I was saying, why was it necessary based on it wasn't a main event that was about anything. It was just top tier in their latest victim. I was like, why is this necessary? Speaking of which, next segment, Top Tier walks through the backstage area and do a poor rendition of a Mean Girls routine. Although there is history there somewhat addressed between Campanelli and Lane when she was formerly Pep Rowley. Outside of that, this would have felt, kind of felt random. There's also some level of history that could be applied as far as Candy Crush. Not necessarily with Pep Rowley, but towards Chainsaw. But I doubt those things will happen. I think somebody brought that up before. I don't think that's going to take place. I sincerely doubt that they're going to be like, see, I did this because you ruined my gloves 2 years ago and now you're going to pay. I don't think that was that deep of a thought. I think somebody just wanted Top Tier to be heels and mean and just walk around doing stuff, so they act like they're in high school or probably less than that, and walked up to this girl who's sitting there for who knows why. She's just sitting in the backstage area away from everything and everybody. But that, even in kayfabe, in that universe, that's her business. And why Top Tier coming that way? Because I haven't been in that building one day, but I'm almost certain that there's nothing that they would have needed to go to in that direction in either way. So they just happen to come across her and they see her sitting there. It's like, let's do some evil shit. And they pick up her doll and rip the head off. That was Candy Crush. And this is after they played Keep Away and she tried so very hard to get the doll back. I mean, she basically just stood there like, hey, stop. That's not a Shakespearean effort on either part. So they played Keep Away and ripped the head off, and then, Fury comes out of nowhere because I guess that walkthrough was a walkthrough for bathrooms or I don't know. And she just comes off camera to protect Daisy Lane, and Top Tier, all three of them leave at the sight of her. Like, oh, okay. I mean, not in terror, mind you, but just because Fury's there, they're like, all right, well, we've had our fun. So this is the point where I'm guessing Fury is now an official babyface. I assume. But she protected Daisy Lane, so I guess so. They did have a match together at one point, but she's had matches with several people. So I didn't know what her friendship level was with any of these persons until now. This is the only one that we've seen her, I guess, run up and stand up for, but I guess is also the only one that's needed it, I guess. So we have Daisy Lane and her head of her duplicate doll ripped off, and she's sad. The big takeaway from this entire segment, regardless of the poor scenario, regardless of the lackluster acting that might have taken place by Lane in this case, was the audio. The audio here was terrible. It's like somebody just forgot to turn on the boom mic, which is probably what happened. And the only thing that we got was the audio of the microphone, so it sounded hollow and it sounded distant. This is the kind of thing that you expect out of a low-budget production. And I'm not even calling WoW low-budget production. I'm saying that this is what I expect from a low-budget production. It's what I expect if you're live and you have no room to adjust it. It's what I expect when people are just getting started doing that job. I don't expect that here. At least I shouldn't. This has got the backing of a multi-millionaire. If I got on TV and did that, I would have an excuse. I have no budget. And even then, I would be mad at myself for it. This show has the backing of a multi-millionaire. Come on. And it's taped. It's not like it's live. Somebody's ears could have caught that. Now, maybe they couldn't have did anything about it, and maybe it was just the owner saying, you know, it's fine. Just put it on. But to my knowledge, I thought they shot 2 or 3 times. And the one, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am actually happy for the effort. I can honestly say that. I am happy for the effort. Regardless of how it came out, I'm happy for the effort. Because at least we saw it happen. And we're not just dependent on backstage, they tore up Daisy Lane's head. Or her doll head. We're not just dependent on that here because we actually got to see it take place. Great. I just wish of all the times that they did something to try to illustrate what took place, it was done a little better, or maybe they should have picked a different segment. But anyhow, I don't know. And then somebody walks in front of the camera and forces the camera to have to. They had automatic focus on, so they had to re-rack the focus. I mean, I wouldn't. If this were supposed to be presented as somewhat of a guerrilla style thing, it wouldn't bother me. Like if the show was presented like, hey, this camera just happened upon this thing and it's happening live and it's somewhat chaotic and I really don't have time to finesse this scene, we'd probably have a lot less of an issue. But this is presented as this is a scene in TV. Camera's here. This is the scene. These are our performers, and they just walked up, and now they're performing it. That's how it's genuinely presented. And because of that, I expect good audio, and I expect the shot to be in focus at all times. If they changed that perception of the show, my perception of it would change. But since they want to be TV, I have to treat it as such. But anyhow, I imagine that Daisy Lane Chainsaw are baby faces now, just based on this alone, and then what happened following. The next segment is promo for Tag Team Championship match. Now, I cannot verify this because I can't find the actual promo that they ran, at least as of this recording. But I could have swore that the voiceover said something like, find out about the tag match next week. And I wrote down, it was already announced, right? I was like, what am I supposed to find out about? Now, I cannot say proof positively that that's what was said. Because there was a lot of talking going on in the room at the time. And I thought I heard it. So I am not going to say this is what they did. But I would certainly hope that that wasn't the case. I hope I'm wrong. Because it wouldn't have made any sense if it happened to say, find out what happens with the tag match next week for something that they already announced. And you know it's going to be a Lumberjack match. So, off to the main event. The main event being Top Tier, taking on this week's rotating cast of stars, Kalaki, Chantilly, Chella, and Gabriella Cruz. So, at the beginning, to go back to the promo that we had at the beginning of the show, I wrote down, what sense did it make to partner with Cruz? Now, nothing against Cruz, but realistically, she hasn't won a match in a while yet. So, against this dastardly dangerous team of Top Tier, why would I do that? Speaking of dastardly dangerous teams and Top Tier being presented as such, well, what do you do when you're a team and you're getting ready to challenge against them and you're concerned for your health and well-being because you too could wind up next to Tara Strike and Ashley Blaze? Well, you come dancing down the ringside and dance further in the ring and turn your back on them on a couple of occasions because you're exerting concern. So I don't know how it is that they're trying to present Top Tier. If that was the idea that, well, they're supposed to be feared or that they actually have been hospitalizing people, although those angles are terrible and it looks just awful. Aside from that, I mean, I don't know if this helps give me the impression that they're dangerous. I'm just saying. Now, before I say anything further about Top Tier, because I know that I have gotten on them and the portion of their vanity belts, because that's exactly what they are. And when they came out the ringside, they had them in full tow and held them up proudly for the cameras to see. But regardless of that, I just do, want to say, one thing I have not questioned is their in-ring execution. I have not gotten on that. Because, I mean, what can I say? The execution has been fairly good. I mean, what could you really complain about there when you go and you look at any of their given matches? I mean, again, we're talking about in-ring execution. So I got nothing to get on any of them about, but Glitter in particular. Glitter does the small things. No, it just might be a grab of the hair. It might be a sweep of the leg. Things that the camera don't necessarily catch. But they're there. And I'm sure there's people in the live audience that may not catch it. But she does it. Because it makes sense for her to do those things when she does them. And the small things that happen in there, I don't know whether it's, been told ahead of time or, however they work it out. Like I said, the execution I can't get on. Like even the walking the rope where Chantilly Chella tries to get up and Coach just pulls the top rope. I mean, that as a working team, no problems, no worries. Good stuff. A lot of times, great stuff. My issue with Top Tier has been that the presentation of Top Tier I don't care for. I don't, not necessarily the in-ring work of them. But they haven't done anything that I would think that they should have accomplished by this time. They haven't built anything. And I know I went on that rant before. Like this whole deal with the dojo defender, I mean, that was their primary opposition. I mean, it was a non-existent feud. It was a couple of matches here and there, and the dojo defenders was largely the ones that were in front of them before Strike went down. But aside from that, I mean, it wasn't even like anybody was in the purview of getting close to beating them. They hadn't elevated anybody. They haven't elevated the titles by the benefit of not elevating anybody. There's no rivalry to them. If there was a rivalry of sorts built around that, maybe it would have. But I'll even say this, they had an uphill battle the moment they mentioned trios titles. I've said from the start, there is no division. So there was very little place for them to go. It's just, if they had that, maybe it would have made the belts feel important. If Top Tier had put someone over, maybe the belts would have felt more important. But they don't. It just feels like what I've always called them, vanity belts. But in the match here, I mean, they did a fine job. They got the heat largely on Chella. And then Kai comes in and they get her. But here again, they're alleged to be the heels. Didn't do much in the way of cheating. I like the implication wasn't even that they came close to cheating or that they needed to cheat in order to beat these three. It's like they were just in there with an all-loser squad. There's nothing, for whatever brief times that they had the advantage, they being the baby faces, didn't last long. Not that it needed to. Let's talk about the narrative of the match. And the narrative of the match is that Top Tier have had. I mean, it's, other than the fact that it's them being asses when they're on the microphone, what is there that you would dislike about them? I mean, and even with that, it's basically one person that's on the mic that's just proclaiming themselves to be the best and all that. And that's really the only heat spot they got. Or the only chance that they have to try to garner some heat with the audience. But outside of that, what is it that they really have that makes them who they are? We are just now getting a backstage segment with them doing something minutely mean. I mean, it's mean that they ripped her property. So we're starting to get some kind of character build, maybe. I mean, they've had maybe more backstage talk time, but those didn't really lead to anything. They was just repeating the same stuff they always repeated. So, I mean, again, so I don't know. If we're just going off of the stuff that they got going on in the ring, it's like the babyfaces couldn't handle them. Go back and look at the match. Almost everything that happened there was just when Top Tier got cooking, they was able to outclass the babyfaces. End of the match. Yes, Cruz comes in and she starts to clean house. But it doesn't last long. She gets a pin on who's left in the ring with a Gloria Glitter. And then Coach does a great save. And it was a great save, like a little slingshot drop kick through the ropes. And yeah, would it be considered I don't even know if you would consider that a cheat. Because people, the babyfaces jump in and save each other. So, I mean, I don't know if that would look at that as cheating. But she does a great save. That eventually lends itself towards a brawl with all 6. And then Top Tier clean the ring. I mean, Campanelli and Candy Crush legitimately just beat Chantilly, Chella, and Kai and threw him out of the ring. Cruz is left by herself. She gets caught with a code breaker or a lung blower, whichever version you want. Glitter makes the tag. She goes up, and then she sacrifices her body to take out the 2 on the floor, while the other 2 in the ring beat Cruz with bottom tier. Coach gets the pin. If I'm just going off the match, I'm not seeing the heel work here. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Coach had an evil laugh at the end. So that justified it all. The match was fine. I enjoyed the match. Nothing against the match. I just, like I said, excuse me, going into whether they needed to cheat or not, but because they're heels, well, they didn't need to. And again, other than the fact that they're just being asses to people backstage, it's not, or on the microphone, as much not by the way of them being heelish up until this point. Like this episode in a vacuum probably would not be a good example to that. But going off of Top Tier leading up to this point, I'm like, they hadn't given you this. Maybe this is the turnaround. Maybe this is it. But I would rather see them do some heel work in the ring also. I mean, really. They beat them flat. It didn't look like it took much effort at all for them to beat them. So maybe it is a good thing that they did have some backstage segments. Because if it was just another day like it had been for months, this would not have convinced me one way. And it's probably worse for the people that look at it on YouTube, except for the cut-in, and we'll get to that. Because YouTube version of WoW generally cuts out all the in-between segments that it used to. Here, you didn't have to worry about that, because the thing that I did skip over was the other backstage segment that happened in the middle of this. During the match, Fury and Daisy Lane are sitting backstage, and Daisy's pouting because her doll's head been ripped off. Fury looks like she's trying to comfort her in some degree. And then Chainsaw comes wandering in out of nowhere. And she looks at the doll and she sees it, one's in one hand and the other's in the other person's hands. And she puts 2 and 2 together. It's like, ah. And then Fury understood that. It's like, top tier. And then Chainsaw goes marching off. Then they cut back to the match. And we get back to Top Tier doing what they do best, just flat out wrestling all of them. Now, if Kai and Chella and Cruz were Spring Break 24/7, I mean, I don't know if they should have had a competitive match if it were them. If they were supposed to be presented as that, then it probably shouldn't have been competitive. But it was, and it just looks like Top Tier just had their number. Competitive or not, they just out-wrestled them. And it may be the only saving grace is that they have gone into this direction of giving them back some backstage stuff to back this stuff up. It had long been one of my issues with them and the show in general, that everything had to be explained by the commentators and we never saw it. Here I finally got it right at the time where, they probably need it, because they've been such an unstoppable force and more or less backed up everything they said, including the promo at the beginning of the show, that had begun or was starting to lose face. Like, are they really heels here? But perhaps this will straighten all that out. So after we get the pin, Chainsaw comes out, lumbering down the ringside, ready for revenge. And she gets in, and Top Tier are just standing around until she gets through the ropes. And when she does, she gives a big boot to, I think Glitter was the one that ran up first, and then the other two get choke slammed out of the ring. Double choke slam. Bam. Out they go. Top Tier down and out. After that, Fury and Daisy Lane come out, and they all pose. So I guess this is the direction that we're going. Assumably. Because I know there's some more tapings that are coming up. And that might be, I hope, I got my fingers crossed. That might be bad for whatever continuity might be crossing the line of September. We're getting to the end of what their taping cycle would have been. I think they started September 2024, and they said they covered full year. So if that's the case, they should be coming close. And that concerns me. Because this is the point where they got to connect the dots all over again. Who stayed, who didn't? Who got hurt, who's not? All of those things, are going to start coming into play if they haven't already done a midway taping somewhere. But if they haven't, then those things will come into play. The closer they get to trying to get everybody back together. Some people ain't coming back. It's going to happen. But anyhow, that was how the show went off the air before I go running off into that. I mean, it was a better start than most of their shows. I shouldn't say a better episode. That's what I meant to say. I mean, it started off with a real life incident. So I don't want to frame it like it was a better start in that way. I'm not, certainly didn't want to, I know she's better now, but certainly don't want to be like, hey, they need more injuries and whatnot and real. Not saying that. I'm just saying that we got something, by and large, good matches. Brat Pack and Island Girls was fine. I got what I expected. Fury and Phoenix was fine. Got what I wanted. Parker and Americana was fine. Got what I expected there too. Main event, I'm not much on the narrative of the team except that they, if I'm going to be fair, they have started to make pushes into the direction of keeping them proper heel. Now, whether it'll stay that way or not, or whether they'll advance on it, and whether they'll actually do those things within the ring, because it does count. It should be in the ring too. Especially if they're going to be up against people that are supposedly a competitive force to them. I mean, they've already beaten Kalaki basically flat on every occasion. So I don't know whether them needing to cheat all of a sudden now would matter. And for that matter, Chantilly, Chella, and Cruz has already lost. But they do need to have some level of heel tactic in the ring every once in a while, I would imagine. And not just be we're the heel team and we can back it up. It's nice to have that. But I don't think that's what they need to be. If they were trying to be disliked. But I do often forget that the crowd is somewhat cultivated, so, may not matter to them. So anyhow, that was the episode. And as entertaining as that might have been, I always have the next one to look forward to. And if you're listening to this at this point, that episode is likely already aired. But I haven't seen it, and I skipped doing this the last time. So I, after taking a swig of water here, talking myself hoarse. I am going to read this because I haven't caught it and see how I react to its various matches and whatnot. So the next show that I'm looking forward to next week or next episode for me, season 3 episode 48, Lumberjacks and Comebacks. Who's coming back in that? Huh. All right, anyway, I'm sorry. That just threw me off. All right. Nikki Nashville locks horns with Sylvia Sanchez, the Lucha powerhouse, hoping to continue climbing the WoW ranks. Was she climbing the WoW ranks? Yes. Well, maybe they're talking about Nashville. Anyway, back. Let me stop getting off track. Animal Instinct's Cody Collins and Katarina Jinx face the Mighty Might Sugar and Spice in a rematch after the tiny but mighty duo defeated Animal Instinct in their previous match. IQ superior Samantha Smart pushes for Tormenta's title to be revoked. But this week, the Classmaster focuses her attention on Holodead of the Dark Side. It's Miami's Sweet Heat, Lovely Laurie, and Luscious Lindsay versus Lana Stars, Holly Swag, and Penelope Pink. In the prior nail-biting bout, the refs ruled no contest after the battle between the four spilled out of the ring. This time around, David McClain sets a special Lumberjack match to contain the action in the squared circle. Will Holly Swag and Penelope Pink be able to stomp out their adversaries? Or will Miami's Sweet Heat become 5-time WoW Tag Team Champions? All right. So, I like that Nashville is coming back around in relatively short order. That's good. Helps people not forget. Hopefully she will continue to look strong in there. Still not big on the Nikki Nashville thing, but it's already in play. So let me see if she can make this thing work and get it over. I mean, she looks great in the outfit, but will Nikki Nashville grow? That'll be an interesting thing to see. How she will do against Miss Sanchez will remain to be seen. I will watch that. I like Sylvia, you know that, so I would imagine that it could be hard hitting. Animal Instinct and the Mites, I'd assume that Instinct is going to win just because they lost the last time. I don't know if I've seen too many people just lose back to back to back. I know it's happened, but I mean that against the same opponent. So, yeah, I'd go with Instinct there. Where was I? Classmaster, and I'll just hope that the Classmaster loses. We'll start with that. If we could just keep her where she's at, I'm a pull for Holiday for that reason alone. God, I don't know. The tag team titles. First off, like I said, I don't understand the point of the Lumberjack match to begin with, but if I were guessing, which I am, maybe Pink and Swag. And a lot of that is me going off of, a little bit of a cheat. I think I saw a photo of Pink and maybe one of the twins being suplexed on the outside in the Fremont Street Festival. So I don't know if this thing ends necessarily. And if it doesn't, I can only imagine that they would keep the titles. So, I don't know. Time will tell for me, and I will see. Well, that is a full gone episode here. Hopefully, it wasn't terrible, but there are things that I want to, I fingers crossed they will grow on or fix. I hope they grow on the fact that they have started explaining stuff. That's, again, whether I like the backstage segment or not, at least it was a backstage segment. I hope they grow on that. I hope that top tier can actually be the team that they should be and win me over. But as of right now, I still see it as vanity belts. I don't think they've elevated anybody. And that probably is a problem for them also because they don't have any real opposition. I like that Phoenix is still doing her thing and kind of trucking along in this not undefeated, but win streak we'll call. And Scout and Americana got by. They got by. We'll go with that. They did fine. A little less focus on Levi though. And so now to close this thing on up, thank you for listening to me carry on and rant about the show and all its good and bad points. Hopefully, I will have less of that to do next week. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. If you have not, and you are listening to this on YouTube, please do the YouTube things like, share, subscribe. If you are checking us out on any other platform, ratings would be nice. If you don't know where to find this, and I'm not sure why you wouldn't, well, you can go to WPNWrestling.com. It's the centerpiece of all episodes of the podcast, whether that be in podcast format. And then there's videos that stretch back to 2013 that are in constant rotation on there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Woo! All right. I think I hit it all the points. And I can get my rest and rest my voice. I'm killing myself trying to get the show out. So, on that note, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.